All right, Shabbos, say good morning. Let us begin. I just want to start by thanking this morning's sponsors, to thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Sivan, Justin, and Abigail Rosemore, for dedicating all of the Shurim and Drashos this month in memory of their beloved son Kobe, Chaim Yaakov David, Zichron Livracha ben Yosef Tzadok, our monthly sponsor. Sorry about that. Our monthly sponsor, Alan and Sue Meirowitz and family, Jason, Deborah, Justin, Rebecca, Mindy, Simcha, and all the grandchildren, the merit of a refuah shlema for Shulamis Tova Bas Mindel. We also thank our Week of Learning sponsors, Adam and Allison Steinmetz and Sherry and Alan Steinmetz, for dedicating all of the learning this week in memory of Harriet Steinmetz, Chaya Bas Meir, Zichron Livracha, on the occasion of her on her fourth yard site. And our Daf Yomi sponsors, Bernard and Varda Birnbaum, in honor of the yard site of Varda's beloved mother, Mrs. Millie Langerman, Malka Bas Chaim Avigdor, as well as Lauren and Richard Stein, in memory of Lauren's grandmother, Miriam Ziesel Bas Tzvi, who survived the Holocaust and lived a life full of emunah in Hashem, love of her fellow Jew, and with constant excitement and hope that Mashiach would be coming very soon. Truly, truly beautiful. We hope that on the merit of our Talmud Torah, all of the neshamas will have an aliyah, and all of those who need a refuah will have one, together with Kol Cholei Yisrael. And above with that, let us begin. We have a beautiful daf ahead of us today. Today's daf is Tzadik Gimel 93, and we are picking up in Meretz Hashem at the Mishnah on Tzadik Beis, Amud Beis 92b. I want to thank Rabbi Yehuda Neuberger for giving the shir last night on Motzei Shabbos. And let us begin. So the Mishnah says as follows. So we'll say we come actually to a very interesting topic today. Very interesting topic of joint liability, personal liability versus joint liability. So says the Mishnah as follows: Hamotzi kikar l'reshus harabim chayiv. If a person goes in and takes a loaf out into reshus harabim, he's chayiv. Okay, we'll say that's just the typical case of hotzah. One person goes ahead and brings out an object, he's chayiv. However, the Gemara says, if two people go ahead and bring out something jointly, then ultimately they will be pater. If one individual cannot perform the malacha by himself, and therefore two end up doing it, they're chayiv. Rabbi Shimon poter, but Rabbi Shimon ultimately says that you are pater. Again, so we'll say we'll define all of these particular cases in the Gemara. Sorry for the mess. So the Gemara says as follows: Am Rabbi Yehuda Rav. So therefore, again, the Mishnah teaching us on a very basic level that halacha l'maisa, in general, to be chayiv malacha, you have to do it yourself. Anytime you get into a situation of multiple people performing a malacha, so then we get into a bit of halachic ambiguity and machlokes. So says the Gemara, Amrav Yehuda Marav, v'amri Amrabai, v'amri Masnisa Tana, ze yachol v'ze yachol. We'll say what happens in a case of where each individual has the ability to perform the malacha, but they end up doing it together. Rabbi Meir mechayiv. Rabbi Meir says that you're chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon potrim. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon says you're pater. Ze'inu yachol v'ze'inu yachol. What happens if this one can't do it on his own? Let's say Reuven and Shimon do a malacha together, but neither Reuven nor Shimon had the ability to do the malacha on their own. Rabbi Yehuda of Rabbi Meir mechayivim. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir say that you're chayiv. Rabbi Shimon poter. Rabbi Shimon says you're pater. Ze yachol v'ze'inu yachol. What happens if halacha l'maisa, again, this one can't do it and this one can't do it, meaning neither Reuven nor Shimon have the ability to perform the malacha on their own? Divrei kol chayiv. Everyone agrees that they are chayiv. Again, I will say we're going to define where all of these shitas come in just a little bit. Tanya nami hachi of a brisa that supports this. Hamotzi kikar l'reshus harabim chayiv. If a person brings out a loaf into the Reshus Harabim, he's chayiv. So we'll say that's, remember, the only reason the Bryce is quoting that is just to get the conversation started. That's obvious, right? If Reuven goes ahead and transfers an object from Reshus Hayachid to Reshus Harabim, he's chayiv. There's no novelty in that. That just helps to frame the conversation in the right way. Hotzi'u shnayim. What happens if two people take out an item together? Rabbi Meir mechayiv. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Sorry, Rabbi Meir says you're chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says it depends. Im lo yochel echel otzio ve'otzio shnayim chayavin. If one could not do it on his own, and therefore two go ahead and do it, ultimately again they will be chayiv. Ve'im lav. But if not, peturin. they're pater. If Rabbi Shimon poter, Rabbi Shimon says you're pater. So we'll say, so now, what's happening here, right? What is obviously what we begin to see is that halacha lemaisa, there is a machlokes regarding joint liability. When you are chayav, everyone agrees, which is obvious. A person does a malacha on their own, of course you're going to be chayav. The shaila is, what is the impact when you have more than one person performing a malacha? So that seems to be the subject of a machlokes. So the Gemara says, where do all of these shittas come from? So we'll say this is really quite fascinating. Tan Rabbanan ba'asosa. So we'll say the pasuk says as follows: Ve'im nefesh achos techeta b'shkagami amaretz ba'asosa. If a person will go ahead and mistakenly transgress, ba'asosa, when they perform a malacha. So the Gemara darshins from there, ha'oses kula v'la oses miktsasa. We'll say what we learn from ba'asosa is that halacha l'maisa, you are only chayiv if you perform a complete act. Right? Literally, again, ha'oses kula v'la oses miktsasa. You're only chayiv if you perform a complete malacha, a full malacha, but not a partial malacha. Keitzad, what's an example of that? So shnayim shayu ochsin b'malgaz v'logzin. So we'll say, for example, if two people were holding a pitchfork. So remember again, and they were going ahead and working with, what would you do with a pitchfork? You put pitchfork, right? You plunge the pitchfork into a stack of let's say wheat. You throw up the wheat, that's where there's winnowing that occurs. So let's say two people are holding onto the pitchfork and ultimately again threshing the produce or winnowing the produce together. So what's or the Gemara says or bekarkar vishovtin, or for that matter they're holding a weaver's rod and they're weaving or setting up the loom together. So the Gemara says bikulmus v'kosvin, or they're holding a quill together and writing. Bikana about rabim, or they're holding a reed together walking into Rosh Hashanah. Yochel yuchayavin. You might have thought that both should be chayiv. Talmud lomar ba'asosa. Therefore, again, the pasuk says ba'asosa. When you perform a malacha, ha'oses kula v'lo osa miktsasa. You are only chayiv if you perform a complete malacha, but not if you perform a partial malacha. So also, I think the best illustration of this, which is probably the easiest, is the quill case. So if you can imagine, Reuven and Shimon are both holding a quill. They're both holding a quill, and together they both write two letters, right? Because we'll see that for ksiva, for writing, the shir is shtei osios. They both write two letters. So what's the halacha, Rabbosai? The halacha is they're pater. Why are they pater? Because neither has performed a full malacha independently. They perform the entire malacha together. Ba'asosa teaches me that halacha l'mais, in order to generate carbonic liability, because that's what we're talking about over here, chatos, halacha l'maisa, a person must perform a complete unit of malacha. So therefore, if two people are doing it together, neither have performed a complete unit of malacha, and therefore neither are liable. Top of Tzadik Gimel. However, 93a, the eagle shall dveil about Yerushalayim, bikora about Yerushalayim. What happens, however, if you have a cake of pressed figs, and this cake of pressed figs is very heavy, so that one person can't carry it? That's the case. I will say now we're transitioning to a different case. See, in the first cases, all of the malachas described could have been performed by one person, but they ended up being performed by two. Now, in this case over here, what happens? In this case, you have something, for example, a very heavy cake of pressed figs or a very large board, which halach l'maisa could not be carried by one person. So two people carry it. They carry it from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. So what's the halacha? We'll say, so now you have, so in case number two, I have something which cannot be carried by one person. Cannot be carried by one person. Therefore, by definition, again, Reuven and Shimon are carrying it together. What's the liability in such a case like that? Rabbi Huda Omer, Im lo yachol echad lahotzi, v'hotzniu shnayim chayavin. Rabbi Huda says it depends. If one person cannot carry this, and therefore can only be carried by two people, they're chayiv. They're chayiv. And I will say, the pashtos, what that means is both of them are chayiv. And I will say, what Rabbi Huda will say is because, whereas normally, what does ba'asosa mean? Ba'asosa means you're only chayiv for a malacha if performed really in the normative way, if one person performs in the normative way. But if you have something that can only be done by two people, then by definition, that's the normative way to perform it. Therefore, both will be liable, although we'll see that in just a moment. So we'll say, if one did not have the ability to lift it, and therefore two lift it, they're both pater. They're both chayiv. Rabbi Shimon says no. Votziu Shnayim Peturin. Rabbi, on the other hand, Rabbi Shimon argues. Rabbi Shimon says, no, Bosai. Even though the item in question is so heavy that one person cannot lift it, and therefore require two people to lift it, Rabbi Shimon says, anytime two people do a malacha together, they are pater. Why? L'kach ne'amar ba'asosa, yochid she'asa chayiv, shnaim she'asa peturin. So Bosai, it appears that Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Huda have a yesodistic machlokes in how to darshan the word ba'asosa. Rabbi Shimon is a literalist. He says ba'asosa translates as how? When he performs the malacha, when he performs the act, which tells me that the only time we can be chayav on Shabbos is when one person performs an act in totality. But anytime two people are performing an act, even if the reason why two people are doing it is why? Because it's too heavy, it's too much for one person to do it by himself. Rabbi Shimon says, anytime you have joint performance of a malacha, there is no liability. Rabbi Huda says, no, that is incorrect. When an individual could commit the malacha himself, perform the malacha himself, but he calls in his friend to help him out, then einachinami, they'll both be pater. But because it could have been performed by one person, so if it could have been performed by one, but two do it, they'll both be pater. But halacha l'maaseh, the nature of the malacha is such that one person could never have performed this on his own. The cake of pressed figs was too heavy. The board was too heavy. Then einachinami, when both perform the malacha together, they will be chayiv. Says the Gemara b'Maikim. We'll say, let's analyze. What are they arguing about? So here we go. B'Haikra. We'll say in reality they're arguing about the following pasuk. Vim nefesh achas techata bishkaga me'ama aretz ba'asosas. We'll say that's the pasuk we quoted beforehand. And if a person will inadvertently sin me'ama aretz from amongst the populace ba'asosa, when he performs one of the mitzvos that Hashem said not to do. Okay, so here we go. Rabbi Shimon savar tlasa mi'utei ksivi. Rabbi Shimon says that the pasuk has three mi'utim. Also remember again, a mi'ut is a limiting phrase that comes to exclude something. So Rabbi Shimon says that in the pasuk itself, there are three mi'utim. What are the three mi'utim? Number one, nefesh achos, right? Nefesh techata, achos techata, ba'asosa techata. Three phrases that Rabbi Shimon was, and I just want to point out, and we'll see this in just a little bit. The reality is, the phrases as expressed here do not appear in the pasuk. These are the drushas that Rabbi Shimon is making. Nefesh techeta, achos techeta, ba'asosa techeta. So we'll say, I just want to point out, just you could see the pasuk, right? The pasuk is nefesh achos techeta bishkaga me'ama aretz ba'asosa. Achos mimitzos Hashem asher lo se'asena ve'ashem. So Rabbi Shimon is making three drushas. There's nefesh, achos, and ba'asos. So he's darshaning it as nefesh techeta, achas techata, basosa techata. And what do the three mi'utim come to exclude? Here we go. Chad mi'utei ze'oker v'zemaniach. One is coming to exclude a case of where Ruvain does the akira, Shimon does an achabos. This takes us back, right? This takes us back to the beginning of Masechah Shabbos. Right? It feels like a million years ago, but it wasn't. I just want to point out, right? Remember when we started Masechah Shabbos? So it was 3 months ago. How different the world was 3 months ago, right? We had our beautiful scene for Masechas Brachas, right? And then again, we began Masechas Shabbos, such a different world. So we'll say, so therefore again, what do we learn? So that we learned this in the beginning. If you have one person do the akira and another person do the hanacha, one person uproot the item from one domain and a second person place it down in a second domain, so ultimately again, there will not be liability in a situation like that. So the first miyut comes to exclude a case where one person does the akira, another person does the hanacha. V'chad l'mi'utei, one comes to exclude the case of zeyachol, v'zeyachol. One also comes to exclude a case where what? Let's say Reuven and Shimon both have the ability to go ahead and transport the item. They both have the ability to do it, but they choose to go ahead and do it together. So Rabbi Shimon will say, well, halacha l'maisa, there's no liability in that case, since they both could do it on their own, but they choose to go ahead and do it together. Everyone agrees, no liability in that case. Vichad l'mi'utei ze eino yachol v'ze eino yachol. And a third drasha comes to say what? This is Rabbi Shimon. Third miyut comes to say that even if both individuals cannot do it on their own, and therefore they do it together, they're still exempt. They're still exempt. So I will say this is Shitas Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon holds that essentially the only time you could be chayiv for the performance of a malacha is if you do it yourself from beginning to end. But if you don't do it yourself, either because, let's say one person does the akir, another person does the hanacha, or two people do it together, whether two people do it together and both individually could have done it, or both individually could not have done it, is irrelevant. In Rabbi Shimon's shita, the halacha is that any time two people do a malacha together, there is exemption. Rabbi Yehuda darshans, he darshans a little bit separately. Chad lemiute ze oker v'zamaniach. So one miut comes to exclude where one person does the akir, another person does the hanocha. The chad lemiute ze yachal v'ze yachal. A second miut comes to exclude where both Reuven and Shimon did have the ability to both perform the malacha on their own. They did have the ability to do so, yet halacha l'maisa again they do it together. And lastly, v'chad lemiute yachid she'asa b'horas bezdin. But remember again, Rabbi Yehuda holds that halacha l'maisa in a case where neither Reuven nor Shimon had the ability to do the malacha on their own, and therefore they do it together. Rabbi Yehuda says there is joint liability in that case. So what does he use the third miyut for? This is very interesting. The third miyut comes to exclude someone who performs an avera, but does so with the permission of Beis Din. You'll say, what's a case of where someone performs an avera at the permission of Beis Din? I will say, look at Rashi. This is really quite amazing. Rashi says, Yachid she'asa b'horas Beis Din, horu Beis Din shechelev muter. But listen to this case. Beis Din issued an erroneous ruling. And in their erroneous ruling, they permitted chelev, forbidden fat. For some reason, they said chelev is permitted for consumption. V'halach hayachid v'asa al pihem. And an individual goes then eats chelev. Do'anasu. Now, both say this individual was a law-abiding citizen, a halacha-abiding citizen. But the Beis Din said that he could eat chelev. So again, he eats chelev. So both say, what's the halacha? So ultimately, again, Rabbi Yehuda holds that such a person is exempt from liability. On the other hand, Rabbi Shimon, yochid shasa b'horas Beis Din chayiv. Right, Rabbi Shimon will say that halacha l'maisa, an individual who went ahead and conducted himself with the instruction of the Beis Din, even though again he was a law-abiding citizen, if he did something wrong, he did something wrong, and therefore halacha l'maisa he will be chayiv. So we'll say, so this is the fundamental machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. It comes down to, so we'll say, just to understand, in Rabbi Shimon's model, the only time there is liability is if one person does the entire malacha from beginning to end. The moment that there's more than one person involved, we don't care why the second person is involved. Either because the first person could do it on his own, couldn't do it on his own, it's irrelevant. The moment you have a second person involved, halacha l'maisa, again, there is no more liability. Rabbi Yehuda says that's not true. If the first person could have done the malacha on his own, but nevertheless involves the second person, then einach inami, there's no liability. But if halacha l'maisa, the second person gets involved because the first person cannot, this is only a malacha that could have been done by two people, then Rabbi Yehuda will say in that case there is joint liability. But there's a third shita, Rabbi Meir, miksiv nechvesh techata, achas techata, basosa techata. Rabbi Meir says you guys are making up drashas. The pasuk doesn't have those phrases. The pasuk doesn't have those phrases. The Gemara says treme uteksivi. In fact, really, if we'll say if you're honest to the text of the pasuk, there are only two miutim, two exclusionary phrases in the pasuk, and therefore, what do they come to exclude? Chad lemeute ze oker v'zamaniach. One is to come to exclude a case of where one person does akir, another person does hanacha, that there will not be liability. V'chad lemeute yachid shasa b'horas Beis Din. And a second, ultimately, again, is to go ahead and exclude a person who performs an aveira, but does so ultimately with what? Does so ultimately with the permission of Beis Din. That such a person will be exempt. So I will say, this is Rabbi Shimon, right? And Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Meir is the most machmir shita, right? Rabbi Meir holds that you're going to be chayiv in all of these cases. So we'll say we're going to leave Rabbi Meir on the side for now, and we're going to focus ultimately again on the shitas of Rabbi Shimon. So we'll say, so now we see a fundamental machlokes about really how to darshan ba'asosa. So Rabbi Shimon being a bit more of a purist, You will only be chayiv for a malacha if one person does it from beginning to end, and we don't care about what the circumstances are. One person couldn't do it, one person could do it. It doesn't make a difference. The moment you have two people involved in malacha, you're pater. Rabbi Huda says, not necessarily so. If one person cannot do the malacha on his own, and the second person aids and abets in the commission of the malacha and enables the malacha to occur, then einachinami you will have joint liability. Again, we're gonna see the halacha l'maisa in just a bit. Let's go a little bit weiter. Amar Mar, ze yachol v'ze eino yachol. Let's listen to this interesting case. We saw this in the Mishnah. What happens if Reuven can perform the malacha, but Shimon cannot? Right? So Reuven could do it on his own. Shimon can't do it on his own. But nevertheless, Shimon assists Reuven in the performance of malacha. So we'll say a very simple case. There's a very large board, right? A very large board, a korah. So Reuven is a strong guy, right? Reuven is a strong guy. He could carry it himself, but Shimon is a good chaver. He sees Reuven about to carry the board on Shabbos. They both Shabbos are talking about a case of shogeg. So Reuven's about to carry the board, and he could do so on his own. But yet Shimon comes along, sees chaver about to carry the board. So Shimon helps him carry the board. And I both say, Reuven could have done this on his own. Shimon could not have done this on his own, but Shimon is assisting Reuven. So what's ta'alacha? That's the case. This one could. Reuven could have carried it. Shimon could not. Divrei hakol chayiv. Everyone agrees you're chayiv. So the Gemara says, by the way, hey, chayiv. Who's chayiv? Who's chayiv? Reuven or Shimon? Amar Chisda zeh sheyachol. Di zeh she'enu yachol. My kavid like Rav Chisda says it's obviously Reuven is chayiv. Right? Because Reuven was the one who could have carried the board. Right? Because why would Shimon be chayiv? Because Shimon really didn't do anything all that substantive. Right? Remember, Reuven could have carried it on his own. He could have carried it on his own. Shimon, at the end of the day, cannot carry it on his own. So what did Shimon do? It's Reuven is going to be chayiv. Amalei Rav Hamnuna to come and say about it. Rav Hamnuna says, what do you mean? Shimon is helping. Shimon is helping out. Right? But at the end of the day, are Shimon's efforts meaningful? Sure. Although Reuven could have gone in and carried it on his own, nevertheless, what's happening over here? Shimon is helping Reuven. The fact that Shimon is helping Reuven, that's Misayeya. He's helping him out. That should be meaningful. Amarle Misayeya ein bo mamish. To which Rav Chisda said, helping out is halachically irrelevant. Very interesting. It was very interesting yesod. Helping out is halachically irrelevant. If Reuven could have carried this board on his own, the fact that Shimon was helping him, halachically irrelevant. We're going to see an incredible musr in that as well in just a bit. So let's analyze. So we've also learned this concept of, most remember this phrase, Misayeya ein bo mamish. If Reuven could do it on his own, and Shimon comes along and helps, helping is very nice, but helping is halachically irrelevant. So the Gemara says, I'll show you other examples of this to show that helping is halachically irrelevant. So as we're transitioning a little bit now to a zav. Rashi says, now remember again, a zav transmits tumah to anything which supports his weight. Tumas medrus. Rashi says, Haya zav yoshev al gabi mita. A zav was sitting on top of a bed. And there are 4 shawls, right? 4 shawls underneath the 4 legs of the bed. What's the halacha? Tmeos. Ultimately, again, all the shawls will be tamei. Why? Because we'll say at the end of the day, a bed cannot stand on 3 legs. Therefore, all 4 of the legs are considered essential to be supporting the weight of the zav. So therefore, since every leg is considered to be essential for supporting the weight of the zav, therefore the shawls, which are underneath the legs, are also considered to be supporting the weight of the zav, and therefore will be chayiv. Good. Rabbi Shimon mitahar. Right. Ultimately, again, Rabbi Shimon says that the shawls are tahar. Now, what's the logic over here? Rashi says Rabbi Shimon mitahar. Rabbi Shimon tamei da'amar ze eino yachol, ze eino yachol, v'ze eino yachol. Now, I'm supposed to remember again. This is Rabbi Shimon. L'shitas Rabbi Shimon holds that halacha l'maisa, again, anytime you have the involvement of more than one thing, there is never going to be liability. But we're going to leave Rabbi Shimon on the side. What happens if halacha l'maisa zav was riding on a horse or riding on an animal? And what happens? And now there are 4 shawls underneath the 4 legs of the animal to horos. In this case, interestingly enough, the shawls will be tahar. Why? Mipnei she'echola la'amod al gimel, because an animal is capable of standing on three legs. So this is very interesting. So because an animal is capable of standing on three legs, therefore what? The fourth leg, is it helpful? Of course it's helpful, but it's just misayea. And because it's just misayea, therefore what? Misayea in bo mamish, helping is halachically irrelevant. Now what's the chap over here? What's the chap? So we know that 3 out of the 4 legs are essential. The fourth one is unessential. What's the issue? Which one is the fourth? Right? So because any one of them, so to speak, could be the fourth, meaning the animal could go and stand on any 3, therefore every one has the ability to be the unessential or non-essential leg, and therefore the shoals underneath the legs in those cases will be tar. Va'amai, but I jumped ahead a little bit. Va'amai, but I don't understand, why is this? I'm sorry, the Gemara says, since an animal ultimately, again, could only stand on 3, or could stand only using 3 legs, therefore halacha lemaisa, the fourth leg is deemed non-essential, and because again any leg could be the fourth leg, or every leg is the fourth leg at some point in time, therefore the shoals underneath the legs are tar. But one second, va'amai bahadi. But one second, I will say, even though the fourth leg is quote unquote unessential, the fourth leg still helps the other 3. What do you see from here? Lav mishum da'aminon mesea imba mamish. What do you see here? I will say, you see that in halacha, helping out is irrelevant. Helping out is irrelevant. So I will say, Amrav Yehuda, midiskarta, the olam em lachem mesea yishma mamish. Maybe not. Maybe in halacha, helping out, an item that helps out, is still deemed essential. So we'll see what the machlokes is. The discussion is a non-essential item, but one that helps out nevertheless, deemed essential or not. So the Gemara is suggesting from here the fact that the shoals underneath the legs of the animal are going to be tar is why? Because 3 out of those 4 legs are essential, the fourth is not. Therefore, because any one of them could be the fourth leg, the non-essential leg, therefore, halacha l'maisa, the shoals are tar. So what do you see from here? Misayeh in bomamish, helping out, is deemed unessential. The Gemara says, maybe v'shayni hacha the akar le'legamrei, the chayvan the zimra akar in ha, v'zimra akar in ha. So the Gemara says, maybe it's different over here. Because with an animal, I will say, the issue over here is there is one leg sometimes that's never helping out at all. In other words, I will say when an animal walks, since the legs are lifted up, there is a time where one of the legs is not even misayea, is not even helping. So because it's not even helping, that's why maybe all the shoals are tar. But if that's the case, but if that's the case, ultimately, again, where sometimes the animal lifts this leg, sometimes the animal lifts that leg, that should be comparable to a different case. This is very interesting. This should be treated like, we'll say, it literally means a rolling zav. A rolling zav. Okay? What's a rolling zav? So we'll say, now watch this. Milo Tanan, did we not learn the following case? Watch this. Zav shahaya mutal agabe hev safsalim, or al he pumdos. Let's say a zav was laying down on 5 benches or on 5 money belts. And I will say, now the reason it's using money belts is because a money belt wraps around the person, so when you spread it out, it's long. Right? Like a bench spreads out in a long way. So the money belt, watch this. So we'll say, so now let's say you have a zav who's laying down on benches or money belts. So la'arkan tmein. If the zav is lying down on the length of the benches, the length of the money belts, they will all be tamei. Why? Because I will say at any given moment, when the zav rolls, any one of those money belts or any one of those benches will support his weight. L'rachban tahorin. But ultimately, again, if the zav is lying down across the width of the benches or the money belts, they're tar. Why? Because I will say, presumably, no one of the money belts or benches ever supports the full weight of the zav. On the flip side, yoshin. What happens if the zav is sleeping? Safek mishapech alein. So we'll say, now watch this. When you're sleeping, here's the issue. When you're sleeping, even if you fall asleep along the width of the benches or the width of the money belts, when you sleep, you move. So in that case, it's safek mishapech alein tmein. Ultimately, again, as Shabbos say, when you sleep, so people sometimes sleep in all kinds of ways. Sometimes people are pretty stationary sleepers, but you have some mobile sleepers. And I will say mobile sleepers could begin sleeping along the width of the money belts or the benches, but could end up along the length. Therefore, in that case, where the zav is sleeping on these items, halacha l'maisa, they become tamei elalav mishum darmina mesei melamash. So, therefore, going back Therefore, going back, it must be that the reason halacha l'maisa by the case of the animals, where you have 4 shawls under 4 legs, where halacha l'maisa those shawls will be tahar, is why? Because since the animal could stand on 3 legs, the 4th leg is deemed non-essential, and any one of the legs could be the 4th leg. Therefore, and even though again the 4th leg is misayeh, helps out the other 3, but misayeh in bomamish helping is halachically insignificant, and therefore the shawls will be tar. Both say another proof to this idea. The misayeh in bomamish. Amud Beis. Rabbi Yossi Omer, hasus metame ayid al yadav, hachomer al raglav. Both Rabbi Yossi holds that a sus, right, if a zav was riding on a horse. So ultimately, again, it is only if there are items underneath the 4 legs of the horse that it conveys tumah. Because apparently a horse supports the majority of its weight on the 4 legs. On the flip side, if there's a zav on top of a chomer, this zav is getting around today, right? These mamish on donkeys, on horses, on benches, on money belts. Chomer al raglov. Right? So ultimately, again, the chomer, say, tell you something interesting. It's funny to see, Zoom gives you the opportunity to see everyone like in their different elements. So somebody's going to commission a psychological study on this, because I noticed just the people who are outdoors, when I say zav, look out into the distance, almost as if when the zav sugyas come up, it's like, okay, I'll just Baruch Hashem take in the beautiful nature. I'll come back in. It's interesting. It's okay. It's not. It's just. It's funny how we relate to some of these sugyas. But again, you're going to see we're coming to a fascinating idea in just a moment. So it is a beautiful day to be outdoors. That is for sure. So the Gemara says as follows. So the Gemara says, "Hasus matami al yadav, hachamer al raglov, shemish enes hasus al yadav, the chamer al raglov." So we'll say. So this is just interesting. This is talking about the idea over here regarding if a zav is on an animal. So if he's on a horse supports the majority of its weight on its 4 legs. Donkey supports the majority of its weight on its hind legs. So if the zav is on a horse and there's something underneath the 4 legs of the horse, or the front legs, I don't know if the 4 legs, the front legs of the horse, so that item will become tameh because it is considered as if it is supporting the majority of the weight of the zav. For the donkeys, if there's something underneath the hind legs of the donkeys, then enochinami, again, that will become tameh because it is considered as if it is supporting the majority of the weight of the zav. But again, the Gemara asks, Va'amai, I don't understand. Even if you want to say that halacha l'maisa, let's say the horse supports the majority of the weight on its 4 legs, but the hind legs still help. And for the donkey, even though it supports the majority of the weight on the hind legs, the 4 legs still help. It's misayah. So ultimately, again, it's still helping out. Isn't helping out significant? Rather, what do you see? Lav mishum da'aminon misayah ein bo mamish. Rather, what do you see from here? You see from here that halacha l'maisa helping out is insignificant. So we'll say you see that in a halachic sense, helping out is not considered to be deemed significant. So we'll say in these cases over here, what it means is it is only the primary items that are used to support weight that are considered to be in halachically significant. The items which just help out, ultimately again are deemed insignificant. Amar Ravashi, af anan namitinina. So we'll say, okay, zav is over. So we'll say now, listen to this case. Listen to this. So the Gemara Ravashi says, so too we learn. This is really fascinating. We'll say the backdrop to this halacha is as follows. When a Kohen does the avoda, he must be standing on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash. If he's not standing on the floor, then halacha l'maisa, the avoda is invalid. So watch this. Raglo achas ala kli, veraglo achas ala ritzba. So what happens if the Kohen has 1 foot on a utensil and 1 foot on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash, or raglo achas ala even raglo achas ala ritzba? 1 foot is on a stone, 1 foot is on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash. So I will say, so what happens in these cases? So what's the halakha? Is the avoda kasha? So watch this. Rowan, kol she'ilu yinatel hakli v'tinatel ha'evan yachol lamod al raglo achas avodasa kshera v'im lav avodasa psula. So I will say, it's fascinating. So what do we see? Let's say if the Kohen has 1 foot on a utensil, 1 foot on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash, 1 foot on a stone, 1 floor on the floor of the base, 1 foot on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash. So what do we view? We'll say very simple. We view it if we were to take away the kli or to take away the stone, would the Kohen still be standing? Would the Kohen still be standing? And if he would still be standing, then what? Then halacha l'maisa, the avoda is kosher. Why? Because that means that the majority of his weight is on the foot standing on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash, and that means that makes the avoda kosher. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. Well, let me say differently. It must be because it will say, for 1 second, even if the majority of his weight is being supported by the foot that is standing on the floor of the Beis Hamikdash, he is still being at least partially supported by the foot that is standing on the utensil or the foot that is standing on the stone. Does that not invalidate the avoda? To which you see what Rabbi say, misayeya in bo mamish, that assisting, right? Assistance has no nerves, that I should say something that aids or something that assists is not recognized in halacha. We also learn another example of the kuna, quite fascinating. Kibel biyamin usmo misayaito. They will say the halacha is that a kohen has to do all of the avoda biyamin with his right hand, which I will say why generally, it's actually quite fascinating. Left-handed kohanim generally are puzzle for the avoda, right? Being left-handed is a psul. Now again, it's not a psul. In other words, if you could do it with your right hand, that's fine. But Allah Chalamai said the avoda cannot be done with the left hand. What happens if the kohen receives? Or also this time he receives the dam, right? He receives the blood, the carbonic blood for zrika purposes. He receives it in his right hand, but he supports it with his left. What's the halacha? Avodas kshera. The halacha is that avodah is kshera. Va'amai habnik kamisayeh bahadadi. But 1 second, but the left is aiding and abetting, right? The left is helping. Lab mishum da'aminon misayeh in bo mamish. What do you see from here, right? It must be because that helping is halachically insignificant. Shma min Rabosai indeed see that this is the case. So I just want to clarify something, not clarify. So remember again, the Gemara in Zafavosai is really quite fascinating that misayeya in bo mamish, helping out, is halachically insignificant. So let's loop back for just a moment. Remember how this discussion started. There's a very heavy beam. Now Ruvain could lift it on his own. But Shimon is a good chaver. He comes along and he helps Ruvain carry it out. So what's then? They carry it from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. So we'll say, who's chayiv in that case? The Gemara says chayiv. Who's chayiv? Ruvain's chayiv. But Shimon, excuse me. But Shimon is helping. What do you see from here? Misayeya ein bo mamish. We'll say helping is halachically insignificant. We'll say, I want to point out that there's an incredible musar in there, and that's how we're going to see the Rambam. I'm going to wait to do the Rambam till we finish all of these halachas. But I will say at the end of the day, what you begin to see is Misayeh Mamash. Helping is halachically insignificant. They will say this is an incredible life musar as well, right? Sometimes things need to get done in life. This is true on a personal level, on a communal level. So sometimes people are very gracious and they say, "Oh, I'm happy to help." So Rabbi say, Klal Gadol in life is, don't offer to help. Just get up and do. Because a lot of times when people offer to help, it's beautiful. But what they're saying is, call me if you need me. Don't wait to be called in life. If something is meaningful and you really want to accomplish something, be the Ruvain, don't be the Shimon. Right? There are plenty of Shimons, right? The Shimons are the people who say, when they see Ruvain schlepping, like, oh, of course, I'm happy to help. Don't be the person who waits to be the Misayeh. Don't be the person who waits to get the phone call. Don't be the person who waits to get asked to help. But if you see that there's a need, if you see something that gets done, I will say, this is true on every level. In our personal lives, there are things we know we need to do, but sometimes we wait for a family member or for someone else to get it started. Well, once you get it started, of course I'm happy to help. Communally, whether it's in our shuls, in our community, there's plenty of stuff that has to get done. And people are always willing to help, but often they have to be asked. Don't wait to be asked. Be the Reuven who goes in and picks up the board and there are always plenty of people who are willing to be Messiah. Baruch Hashem. No end to the number of people of helpers. Plenty of Shimons. Never enough Reuvens. And the Gemara says at the end of the day, who are the most important people in this world? Not the people who run to help after Reuven already started carrying the log. Once Reuven picked it up, he's got it. He's able to do it. Misayeya ein bo mamish. Right? The offers to help are very nice. But at the end of the day, be the kind of person who sees the need and runs to get the job done. Don't be the person who has to be asked. Don't be the Shimon who sees someone else schlepping and then says, oh, I'm happy to help. But be the Ruvain who sees the need, understands the need, and proactively engages to help get the job done. Misayeya im bo mamish by Zov, Misayeya im bo mamish by the Kahuna, Misayeya im bo mamish by Shabbos, and Misayeya im bo mamish by life. Let's go right there. Says the Gemara. Amar Mar, Zeyachal v'zeyach. I'll post another interesting case. What happens? Reuven, we'll stick with Reuven and Shimon, right? Reuven and Shimon both have the ability to go ahead and do the job on their own. They both have the ability to do the job on their own. So what happens? So, but yet they do it together. What's the halacha? Rabbi Meir mechayiv. Rabbi Meir says that you're chayiv. Interesting enough. So we'll say this. Now remember, this is Shittas Rabbi Meir. Different than Rabbi Shimon, different than Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir says even if both Reuven and Shimon have the ability to do this on their own, they're still going to be chayiv. So according to Rabbi Meir, the boss say I just point out we don't pass him like this, Rabbi Meir. But again, it's interesting nevertheless. So we'll say in this case, does the item, right, or does the malacha that both are performing, does there have to be a shear for Reuven and a shear for Shimon, or one shear is enough? One opinion says that when two people both do the malacha, and halacha l'maisa, they're both capable of doing it on their own, there has to be a shear for each of them in order to generate liability. One says no, one shear is enough for both. So let's analyze. We learned this as well. If a person was sitting on a bed, this is again back to Zav. Look out at nature now, taking the trees. Right, so say side, good. So marabuma asacha Hashem. So ultimately again now what happens? The Zav is sitting on the bed. Va'arba talisos tachas arba ragle amita, and you have 4 talisos, 4 shawls underneath the 4 legs of the bed. So what's the halacha? Tmeos. Ultimately, again, remember, so all 4 shawls are what we just said before. Why? Because again, remember, all 4 legs are deemed essential, and therefore they all support the weight, and because they all support the weight, any shawls underneath it ultimately go ahead and halacha l'maisa are considered to be supporting the weight of the zav as well, and therefore are tamei. The Gemara says, but why? V'libai shir ziva lazeh, v'shir ziva lazeh. But I don't understand. Ultimately, again, we'll say, really, if you think about it, if you really require an independent shear, that means each leg of the bed should have to have a zav on it, right? You should have a zav for every corner, right? A zav for every corner, because otherwise, we'll say if the zav is just sitting on the bed, then really no one leg is supporting all of the weight of the zav. So if you say that you really require shir lazeh v'shir lazeh, then really in order for all four legs of the bed, or for all 4 shawls underneath the legs to be, tell me, what do you really need? You need 4 zavs, right? 4 zavim. The Gemara says, La mishum damin shir echad lekula. It must be because we say that in general, both say all you need is 1 joint shear. So in other words, in order for all 4 legs to become tamei, or I should say for all 4 shawls underneath all 4 legs to become tamei, halacha l'maisa, I just need 1 zav. Because again, whenever you're dealing with, you only need one complete shear. So the Gemara says, Amrav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Afanan Tamim, we also learn this. So let's listen to this case. Tzvi shenichnas labayis. So what happens if you have a deer that ran into a house? V'no'al echad b'fanav. So we'll say, now watch this. And what happens? And we'll say, so now we're going to learn about the malach of tzeda. The malach of tzeda is trapping. But interestingly enough, so we normally think about trapping with a trap. But I'll tell you something interesting. If an animal runs into your home and you shut the door of your house on the animal, that's also called trapping. So the Gemara says, watch this. So if a deer runs into a house and someone closes the door in the front of the deer, chayiv. Ultimately, the individual is chayiv because of tzeidah. Na'alu shnayim. What happens if two people close the door on the deer? Then what? Pturin. Then ultimately they're pater. Right? They're both saying, now this is not like Rabbi Meir, this is like Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Because anytime you have malacha where one person could have done it and two people do it together, halacha l'maisa again, you're going to be pater. What happens if Reuven and Shimon, the door was a heavy door, neither of them had the ability to close it, so they both did it together? What's the halacha? Shnayim chayavim. Sorry, shnayim chayavim. They will both be chayiv. Va'amai. The boy shared seidul azeh, v'shared seidul azeh. So we'll say, but 1 second, why should they both be chayiv? It was only one animal. It was only one animal. So ultimately, again, if it's two people doing it together, shouldn't you require 2 deer? Right, 2 deer? But what do you see from here? So we'll say, so this is actually very interesting. What you begin to see is as follows. Any time that 2 people will be jointly liable for the performance of one malacha, they kind of come together as one unit. So because they're acting as one unit, the shir of the malacha doesn't double because it's 2 people doing it. Whenever 2 people work in harmony with each other, right, are working as a unit, the shir of the malacha remains as if it was one person performing the malacha. We also learn this. Listen to this. Reuven and Shimon are partners in crime, and they go ahead and they steal and slaughter an animal together. So also remember again, if you steal and slaughter an animal, depending on the type of animal you are stealing and slaughtering, either you're chayiv 4 or 5 times payment. So what's the halacha? Chayavin va'amai li boisher tzricha lazeh v'sher tzricha lazeh. Why don't you require a separate shear for Reuven and a separate shear for Shimon? Rather, lab mishum damin on shear echad lekulam. Rather, it must be that what we say you only require 1 shear for everyone. They both say that's the way it works. That when 2 people perform a malacha together, they become a joint entity, a unit, and therefore they almost move as one. So because they move as one, therefore, or they're looked at as one, therefore the shir for the malacha is as if it's for one person as well. So the Gemara says, watch this. If 2 people go ahead and carry out literally again, kana shalgardi means a weaver's rod. They're chayiv. Shouldn't there be required a shir otzah for this one, a shir otzah for that one? It must be that what we hold that is 1 shir for everyone. Amrali Rav Acha Brei Rav Ashi Dilma the Ispe Kedei Levashal Beitza Kalazeh. Maybe the reed. Remember again, this rod was often made of reeds. Maybe it's because this reed is large enough that it has enough. Remember again, we spoke about reeds, that the shear for a reed, a broken reed or a thick reed, is enough to provide fuel to cook an easily cooked egg. So maybe the reed in question is large enough that it could provide fuel to cook an egg for both of these guys. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, let it just say reed. Why does it purposely point out a weaver's rod? So maybe this rod is long enough that it could go ahead and help to weave a cloth for this one and a cloth for that one. You're right. So let's leave aside that case. So that case, Rabbi Sai, of the weaver's rod is inconclusive. So the Gemara says, Tani Tana Kamed Rav Nachman, Shnaim Shotziu Kana Shalgardi Pturin. If the Korban says, so the Tana quoted in front of Rav Nachman, if 2 people carry out a weaver's reed, so ultimately again they will be pater. Rabbi Shimon says you're chayiv. So we'll say, but we learn the shitas in the opposite way. Klapi laya, it's just the opposite. Ela ima chayavin. Rabbi Shimon pater. So we'll say there's machlokes regarding the weaver's reed question. So we'll say, so bottom line, halacha lemaisa. We have a number of outstanding questions, and with this we will close the shir with our halacha lemaisa. So we'll say, what are our outstanding questions? Number 1. What's the case of joint liability? So we'll say, I know that if one person does a malacha from beginning to end, he'll be chayiv. What happens in a situation where 2 people do a malacha together? Then I will say, now that case really comes up in 2 different ways. Number one, if neither were capable of doing it on their own and they do it together, or case number 2, where one was capable of doing it on his own, the second guy comes along and he's misay, he's helpful. So those are the 2 outlying shaylas, right? Do we say misay, yeshu mamish, imbo mamish? What's the status of joint liability? So we'll say, so the Rambam Paskins, this is really very fascinating. So this is actually in the beginning of Hilchos Shabbos, Perek Aleph. I'm going to quote to you 2 halachas. Perek Aleph, halacha tes vav and tes zayin. So let me read to you the Rambam. Kol malacha shayacha liyacha lasos osa levado. Anytime an individual can perform a malacha by himself, va'asu osa shnayim b'shutfis, bein she'asa zeh miktasa v'zeh miktasa, kigon she'akar zeh achev v'zeh yuzu, v'niucha Hashem b'shus acheres, bein she'asu osa shnayim ke'echad. I'm just going to read mitchila v'atzav, kigon she'asu achsu shnayim b'komos, v'kaso achsu kikar v'otzio mirshus l'rishus hare'ilu p'turin. So we'll say halacha l'maisa number 1 says the Rambam. Anytime one person could have done the malacha, but two people do it, Salacha l'maisa, you are pater. So we'll say this comes up in one of two cases. Let's say Ruvain did the akira, Shimon did the hanacha, pater. Or Ruvain and Shimon both hold on to the quill and they write 2 letters together, pater. Or the beam was light enough that it couldn't be carried by either of them by themselves and they do it together, pater. So we'll say that is halacha l'maisa number 1. Anytime any individual could have done the malacha by themselves, but 2 people choose to do it together, they are both pater. That's halacha number 1. Next. Sorry. Tez zayin, v'im einach yachol lasos levado, ad sheyitztarfu kigon shtayim she'achzu kora, v'otzilu shesarabim, hoil ve'ein koach be'echal mehen lasos levado, v'asu osa b'shutvus min tchila v'adsof, Shneyen chayavin. So we'll say, so now second halacha says the Rambam. That's what? However, let's use the board case. Let's say 2 people do a malacha together. And why do they do the malacha together? Because neither had the ability to do it on his own. So they do it jointly together. Says the Rambam, they are chayiv. Chayiv. So neither Ruvain nor Shimon could do the malacha, they do it together. Both are chayiv. Right? What's the shear of the malacha? The shear echad lekulan. There is one shear. In other words, both say, since neither could do it on their own, essentially they're reckoned as one entity, and therefore the shear for the malacha is the same shear as it was for an individual. So both say, so therefore halacha number 1, if both Reuven and Shimon could do the malacha on their own, but they're good friends, they do everything together. So they decide to do their malachas together also, they're both pater. But if neither Reuven nor Shimon could do the malacha on their own, and therefore they join forces and do it together, they will both be chayiv. And what? It's one shift for both of them. Last case, haya koach be'echad lahotzi korazu levado, v'ashini en yochel lahotziu levado, v'nishtatfu shneim v'hotziu. Both like case number 3 is, Reuven could carry it on his own. Shimon can't carry it on his own. Reuven lifts it up and Shimon helps him out. Zeh harishon sheyachol chayiv, v'ashini mesayeh, u'mesayeh eno chayiv klum. Rabbi say halacha number 3, misayeh ein bo mamish. Helping is halachically insignificant. So if Reuven could carry on his own and Shimon helps out, Reuven will be chayiv, Shimon is pater because misayeh mash. So we'll say therefore again, halacha l'maisa 3 cases. Case number 1, where Reuven and Shimon, either of them could do the malacha on their own, yet they choose to go ahead and act together, both pater. Case number 2, neither Reuven nor Shimon could do the malacha on their own. They join forces, they do the malacha together, both chayiv. And the shear, again, is as if one person did the malacha. Case number 3, Reuven could do it on his own, but Shimon is a nice guy, wants to help out. Reuven will be chayiv, Shimon will be pater, because halacha l'maisa in Shabbos and in life, Misayeya ein bo mamish. All right, Shkach Abosai, we'll stop over here for today. We will, Amir Hashem, take up at the Mishnah tomorrow. Regular schedule for tomorrow, Tzidkas Atzadik at 5:45, Daf Yomi at 5:55. Have a wonderful day, Yashikach.